Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? My name is Jamil Jude, and I have the best job in the American theater because I'm the artistic director at True Colors Theater Company, a Black theater company located in Atlanta, Georgia. On behalf of everybody, as part of the Drinking Gourd, the consortium of 6 theaters that are committed to the co-commission, co-development, and co-world premiere of new Black work by amazing Black playwrights, I want to say welcome, y'all. Welcome to our conversation where we're going to chat today with the cohort, the first ever cohort of the Drinking Gourd Black Writers at Work. We are so excited for these three beautiful minds that are going to grace your screens today. We're going to talk about what it means to be a writer, what it means to be a Black writer, what it means to be writing for Black audiences. I hope you all are ready for a really dope conversation. But before we get started, I want to do just a quick level set. Because some of you all are coming here for the first time and like, yo, what is Drinking Gourd? I'm trying to figure out what that is. I kind of like the sound of it. It sounds Black, but let me know a little bit more about it. Well, in 2021, the Drinking Gourd was conceived and it made up of 6 theaters who represent all aspects and all parts of this beautiful country of ours, representing so many different regions and so many ways of Black expression. True Colors is joined in the consortium by the Lorraine Hansberry Theater in Seattle, Washington, the Ensemble Theater in Houston, Texas, the National Black Theater in Harlem, New York, Hattie Lou in Memphis, and Penumbra in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We are so thankful for all of our partners who have been slogging and working together to help bring these works by these dynamic playwrights to stage as we try to change the way that the American theater relates to Black playwrights, Black new work development. So without further ado, y'all, I want to get into this conversation because you didn't come here just to hear me bloviate about how dynamic the program is. You wanted to hear directly from the writers who are making the difference. So I'd like to now welcome to our virtual stage our 3 amazing writers. There they go, y'all. There they go. These are the griots that we are so excited to be supporting their amazing work. By way of introduction, I'm going to ask them to say their name and then tell us a little bit about the play that they're bringing to the Drinking Gourd. Let's start with you, Gethsemane.
Hi, you all. My name is Gethsemane Herron. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota, so right around the corner from Penumbra Theater Company. And right now, the play I'm working on doesn't have a title, but it's an ode to my grandma and all the ancestors that I never got a chance to meet. My grandma is in her 90s, and in many ways, I feel that when she passes, an entire lineage will pass with her, like the knowledge of that. And so I decided to take this play as an opportunity to record that and theatricalize my own family tree as part of my own history and my own heritage as a woman of Southern descent from Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Okay, shout out Mississippi. We got the sip in the house. All right. Ngozi, what's up?
Hi, I'm Ngozi Anyanwu. I am coming to you today. I'm in Los Angeles, California. Tomorrow, who knows where I'll be, both spiritually and physically. But I came to the Drinking Gourd through a play that I'm working on called Regular Degular. As an artist in residence at National Black Theater, they were like, submit to this. And I was like, that sounds dope. So it's a play about Black love. And that is, the thing on my back that I am interested in and trying to find and search through. So yeah, working on that with the Drinking Gourd has been really cool.
And James, what's up?
Hey, James Ijames. My Drinking Gourd play is called Tank Stranger. And it's a magical realism romp through a favorite topic of mine is cycles of trauma in families and how we can heal them. So in this play, they heal it through magic and reunion. So that's what the play's about.
Y'all, again, just on behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you all for believing in the Drinking Gourd. Thank you for taking this initial step with us and getting the opportunity to change the way in which the American theater is going to relate to Black theater companies, especially in our generation of new Black work. To that end, I want to go ahead and start our panel conversation open with this question. And Gethsemane, I'm going to throw it to you first. What is your favorite thing about hearing Black audiences experience your work?
It's so funny. I was thinking about this as we were thinking about the questions. I realized that I don't know if I've ever had an opportunity before the Drinking Gourd to have a Black audience. I went to a PWI MFA program. Currently, a lot of my workshopping there was with the people in the program, and I was the only Black woman in my playwriting cohort. And I realized that so much of the traditions I'm interested in are Black traditions. I was really lucky to have Marcus Gardley as a mentor when I was writing my thesis. And I knew I wanted to go with Marcus because I saw The House That Will Not Stand at New York Theater Workshop on Black Theater Night. And to be in that room with the way that we as Black people were giving so much love to all those incredible performers, I was like, I need to be in front of Black audiences. I haven't been privileged enough to do that, and I need to make that happen for myself. And so I'm so grateful to be a part of the Drinking Gourd for offering that opportunity to me, because that's where I felt really seen in that audience that night.
I think your story is the exact reason why the consortium came together, to be able to provide experiences like dope writers like you, the experience to have your work be heard by these 6 brilliant companies. Ngozi, I want to ask you the same question. What's the best part about hearing Black audiences experience your work?
I mean, it's just like, you know, for me as a know-it-all, it's like, I told you so. So that's sort of why, like, as someone who works a lot in the PWIs and the sort of off-Broadway regional circuit, you know, having to sort of like fight to get Black Theater Nights, one of the sort of like, you know, original arbiters of such things to be in Chi-Chi, and watching Dominique sort of cultivate things like that. It's just like a night of community where not only as an artist can you kind of rest and go, well, this is who it's for. I mean, essentially everything I make is for anybody who wants to come and listen, quite frankly. But, you know, it's fam in the house. So, and sometimes they teach you things that you didn't even know. And it feels like, oh, I didn't also know that they were needing that too. So it's just kind of like, it's just a healing kind of situation for me as the artist to sit in there with my people and to watch them also get fed.
Yeah, thank you. That mutual feeding, that sense of community that's built in there. I hear you, and that resonates deeply in me. James, what you got to say to this question?
I agree with everything that's been said, so I won't repeat anything that's been said. I'll add to it the thing that I can only describe as like this sort of soul intelligence. I don't like the word soul. See, like I knew I was going to get the word wrong. It's like a thick intelligence, because you don't have to explain things. You don't have to cross a cultural line to like make something land. And like, you know, to Gethsemane's point, I grew up super Black community. My experiences of theater were super Black. Went to historically Black college. So like my training was sort of super Black oriented. And so when I started to work in PWIs, I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. It's like this sort of muted, overly polite audience that didn't have an opinion about anything that was happening on stage, and I wasn't used to that. So having Black audiences there just makes me know that the thing that I'm doing, it makes sense.
James, I think I have the word for it.
Yeah, what is it?
I think it's cultural aptitude.
Like this moment right now, start writing the academic articles about that. That was great. Yes, that's it. It's an aptitude. Yeah.
Okay, look at this. I love this. This is a blessing, y'all. It's a blessing to be in here, and the amens and the finger snaps. Y'all know that is so Black, and here we are. We just doing our thing. Being Black and creative right here today. Gethsemane, you have talked a little bit about just like this, the privilege of shorthand, of working inside of Black institutions, or working with Black directors. I want to talk, I'm going to ask this question specifically to James and Ngozi, because they have had their development, and we'll come back to you, Gethsemane, about what you're hoping for. But James and Ngozi, and whoever wants to start, talk a little bit about what is that cultural aptitude? What is that shorthand that you got through this Drinking Gourd in your development experience that maybe shifted a perspective or made you let your shoulders down? Talk about the cultural shorthand and then its effect on you and the play you're developing.
I could talk about it in a really specific way. And in addition to working with Black directors and dramaturgs, that's so important. But Black actors, when they're working on a Black play in a Black space, tell you the absolute truth. And I don't think they always do that when they're in non-Black spaces. Am I telling T? This is T. I think. I don't know that they would want me to say this, but like I have a very different experience of how they talk to me about the work. And they talk to me about the work in this very, I know you can do this. I know you can do this. You're just not working hard enough. It's a very specific sort of Black brother, sister, mama, auntie way of talking to me about the work that isn't prescriptive. So they're not telling me how to write the play, but they are telling me the thing that they need as an actor to get to the thing that they want. And they do it in this way that I feel very loved in. People talk to you any old kind of way about your work when they develop in it. Like people will say anything to you about what you're writing. And my experience in Black institutions doing development is that there's an unwillingness to hurt you in this process. And it's just by kind of default. I don't know. I mean, that was my experience in the Tank Stranger workshops we did in New York. It was just incredibly healing for me in that play.
Yeah, I think care is in there. Care, for the most part, no matter where I'm developing, I kind of make sure that the room is padded with all Black people anyway. Yeah. Like it's kind of just a feeling I've always had just from being an actor first and not necessarily having control over what kind of room I get. So when I transition to a writer, I kind of try to pad my experiences based off of being an actor, of having not so great experiences or experiences that were interesting. That was like, what happens if as the writer, now that I have the power to pick a Black director, and a Black director with my similar politics, where most people should also be Black, what happens in that room? And so I've kind of already been doing that, but then going to an institution, I've been with National Black Theater in some way. So going to an institution, then going with Drinking Gourd in a way that is just kind of like, I don't know, there's just like an ease. It's like, there's a lot of work that I have to do to make sure I'm safe. In other places, that in some places they already know now because I've been there a couple of times, and so they're like, "Oh, this is how we like to, this is how it goes and needs it, And then they're kind of like, "Oh, having Black people around is great, It is what it is." And then going to a Black space, it's just kind of like, "Yeah, Ngozi, everyone here's Black, relax." Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, "Oh, and just like the ease of having everyone kind of feel like a mama and auntie and sister, and like." You could just get to work and the stakes don't feel as high. And it doesn't mean that the work's not going to be great, right? It doesn't mean that the work's that we're not going to be rigorous. It's just like, it's just a play. Like we're just, where the goal of the thing feels like something not necessarily marked around like capitalism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
Gethsemane, as you dream up this world and this beautiful play you're about to write that is a celebration of your lineage and of one of the matriarchs in your family line, like what are you hoping to get out of a development experience that centers you in the midst of these companies dedicated to supporting your voice?
Thank you. I think what I'm hoping to get, it's so interesting that we were talking about magical realism. And I was thinking a lot about magical realism just from other people of color, specifically Latino playwrights I know who feel like very much pigeonholed into magical realism. And I can understand because it's so widespread and that preponderance of it. But I began to also kind of question, because I also see my piece as a type of magical realism, like who gets forgotten in it? And I feel like Black people, particularly like Black Southern people, do have such a relationship to magical realism that is often forgotten, right? It's almost like people are either pushed into it or barred from it. And what I'm looking forward to is to enter myself into it and continue that lineage. We're not talking about theater, but I remember watching Cassie Lemon's an incredible movie in 1997 starring Samuel L. Jackson, Eve's Bayou. There we go. I remember thinking about Eve's Bayou and feeling so particularly seen and arrested by that narrative and its relationship to a type of magical realism. And I feel like I want to be a part of, again, adding to the canon of Black magical realist writers who have a relationship to the South and to the heritage of that.
Beautiful stuff, y'all. It makes me really excited to continue on with this. I want to shift gears a little bit and talking about like one thing I brag about here, being in Atlanta, known maybe colloquially as a Black Mecca, at least at the very least a Southern Black Mecca, is that when we are doing work, our audience is 90% Black on a bad day, right? So you're going to get the feedback from our audience, whether you want to or not. I want to talk a little bit with you all about how do you approach incorporating that kind of honest feedback both within and outside the Black community during the development of your plays. And Ngozi, I'll start with you on this one. And again, how do you incorporate that feedback both from within and outside of the Black community when developing your plays?
I mean, I mostly just think about what the thing is and what the thing that I'm trying to do. And so it's not that I don't take my audience into consideration. I just, at this point, have enough trust that if I rigorously explore the thing that is happening in the play, I don't necessarily take in, I hope for their reaction, right? Like I hope when this is like the emotional swell, we get the tears and the trickles, right? I hope when, I put in a little bit, maybe I think this is going to be a part where they laugh, but I don't necessarily, I don't really think of that in mind. It's really like, for me, it's really like, is this thing doing the thing? And I think I am always trying to get to a point of healing and like how hard it is to heal. So like, hopefully that's always the goal, but I don't know if that happens when they walk out. Like, I don't know. Like that's the goal. And I don't go, hey, do you feel healed? Like after, right? But, I don't take them so much into consideration because I feel like if I do, it can maybe stop my process, if that makes sense. So for the most part, I really think about what the play is trying to do scene by scene and the thing, and trust that if we all did our work, the magic, I'm more interested in the surprise of what's going to happen as opposed to planning for something to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Gethsemane, James, y'all want to get in on this one?
I just want to say, Ngozi, I definitely felt healed when I saw Good Grief. I literally cried my eyes out in that lobby and wrote so many notes. So it's definitely working for me. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the truth. Dale Orlando Smith and I had to talk about this years ago, like pre-Panty, where I was like, I don't know if my work, I don't know if there's an audience for my work. Maybe Black people won't like it. Maybe white people won't like it. Maybe nobody will like it. And she was like, what is the story that you need to tell? Like, what is that story? And stay rooted in that and tell it with rigor and tell it with truth. And know that people will lean into something if you're hitting onto something true. And you're going to be okay. Right? Because it might not fly in whatever space it might be in, but hit that truth. And it'll keep you through. And I was like, thank you. And it's literally kept me calm as I write so many years later.
This is what I would add. My writing process is in no way led by an audience. And here's why I say that. I deserve, as a writer, the right to have an artistic practice that is mine only. But what an audience is responding to is a collective effort of many people. So it is not one person's fault, whatever the audience's experience is. And I think sometimes it's very quick to put it on the playwright or put it on the director, but it is a collective effort of what we see on that stage with different hierarchies or what have you. So like when I'm writing, it's about the object in front of me. Like what is Ngozi said, what is the thing you're trying to do? And then you want to do it in such a way that the object that you make is useful to other people to make the thing that they need to make. But that's my stuff. Like I need to be able to stand on that document as a unique and specific work of art. And that has to be about me and what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to make and what I think is beautiful. And it has allowed me to privilege my taste and not worry so much about what other people like. And that freed me.
I love that. It's fitting to be talking about freedom and the drinking gourd and the freedoms that we get to celebrate as part of this consortium. I want to move, but by way of moving, remind folks of the overall mission of the Drinking Gourd Consortium, which is to co-commission, co-develop, and ultimately co-world premiere new plays by Black writers. All of the writers that you all see today have different relationships and how they got involved with it, starting with this idea of co-commissioning. So we are, the consortium has commissioned Gethsemane from the idea, like from the first thing, like, hey, what's in your brain right now? We want to put money in your pocket to make that thing happen. James joined us in a way of a finishing commission. He had started Tank Stranger some time before and has now been working inside the consortium to bring that show to an eventual world premiere. And Ngozi has been in the midst of the development of that piece, of her piece, Regular Degular. Started someplace else, has had other development life, and now is getting itself ready for what eventually, hopefully, will be a world premiere. I want to ask you all this question, especially those of you all who have had the same play produced at multiple theaters. What do you all see the potential value of having that co-world premiere, rolling world premiere opportunities for your plays inside of these Black institutions before they are ingested by predominantly white institutions?
We write for a live medium, right? I feel like as much as I slave over the script and as much as I've had workshops and readings to death, I feel like I don't learn about it until it gets on its feet. Like I actually haven't had a full production yet. I graduated grad school like right before the pandemic and everything shut down. So like I feel like I'm just now beginning to turn into that. And I'm beginning to look at these plays that I've been working on these past few years, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I won't know until it's actually on the stage. And I remember talking to a writer, and they were like, oh, yeah, I didn't know what my play was about until I was 3 productions in. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because we write it for the stage, and we need to have an opportunity to learn again and again and again with different collaborators and different houses. And so I think that's what it offers us, like the opportunity to learn, and it's a really muscular way of seeing what this piece is going to be like.
I also think what it offers is confidence, right? Like, good grief, I first self-produced that with my sister, for our community in like a 65-seat theater. We did it for 5 days with our people showing up every day to be like, what's your first play? And getting the laughs and the cries and the affirmation. That was like, by the time I got a world premiere, right, where I didn't have to Kickstarter and someone else is doing it, you couldn't tell me nothing because my people already approved me. So they already, my people who are professionals and just, regular people who just go to plays, who just auntie who came to support, they already said that they loved it and they liked it and affirmed it in whatever way they could articulate. So by the time it tried to get funneled through a different institution that maybe we don't have the same whatever, it's like, no, I know that this thing stands on its own. I'm willing to change because if I have an artistic impulse to do something, but you're not going to tell me it doesn't work, if that makes sense. So I think like having multiple premieres is great because you can figure something out. But also once you get into the audience, sometimes that audience tells you like, yep, nope, yep. You know what I mean? That you can kind of work through if you want to do that.
Good. Then I wouldn't just leave space, James, if you wanted to get in there. If not, I do have another question ready to go.
I mean, I agree. Like, it's just the best thing in the world to get to see it in that many spaces and that all those different audiences, all those different kinds of Black people in different parts of the country, because Black people are real different in the North and the South than they are from the West, Midwest. Like, that's one of the things I love about Blackness in this country, but all over the globe. Really, it's like where you go, it's fresh and it's funky and you got to meet it. but there's this core thing that sort of makes it, I don't know, when you write to it, everybody lights up. It's a special thing.
Yeah.
Everybody plays Uno differently, and yet we are all out here playing Uno.
I just put this in a play. Listen, I just put this in a play where the couple is arguing about a rule in Uno. I was like, what is the blackest thing that could happen right now? It's that.
I mean,
that's global. That's global.
I feel like since we opened the door, I gotta ask this question. If you put down a draw 4, what can you put on top of it?
You can't do nothing. You gotta take the 4, and
you gotta take the 4.
Or you can put on another draw 4.
No,
exactly.
We playing all night. No
lies and propaganda.
You can put another draw 4.
Our reasons are coming up for sure.
I believe that you can put a reverse on a draw 4. But
what?
like, you're not ready for that.
Are you taking it too far, Jamil?
That word.
You're actually just cheating. You're cheating.
Let's get back to the things that people want to talk to us about. They came here to learn more about plays and playwriting and new work development, and not house rules or Uno. Although I do think that is valid.
Reverse
conversation.
Never
we talked, and just building off of where we were before I sidetracked this with the Uno conversation. We just talked about Blackness not being monolithic, but there are so many ties that bind. And one of the I think the hallmarks of this consortium is that we have theaters in the Pacific Northwest and in Houston, Texas, and in the Midwest, and in Harlem, New York, and in the American South, right? So like I want to ask you all, I think that the work that each of you all do is so unique and yet so universal. As you think about global Blackness, the African diaspora, what are the ways in which maybe you have found your Blackness to be extremely unique while also part of a larger and longer continuum of Black storytelling?
That's such a great question. I feel like somebody who said this to me jokingly, because I realized I misspoke. My family's from Mississippi, and I grew up going back and forth, but I'm from like the Maryland, D.C. area originally. And someone once told me, you D.C. girls, you're like New York girls and Atlanta girls put together, and then y'all just come out as your own thing. And I was like,
that's accurate.
That's actually the
That's accurate.
I was like, wow, they set up a word. And so I feel like so much like I'm a Black girl, but I'm a Black girl from Maryland and DC. There's like a certain relationship to the Atlantic, the Mid-Atlantic, to Old Bay, to crabs, to that particular culture that I really, really love, even as I'm on one side of my family, and then there's other part of my family that is like, again, very deep Mississippi, because I grew up going back to Memphis and to Mississippi, but also like my grandparents left Mississippi and did the Great Migration and went to Denver. And I feel like even that type of migration had a profound impact on my family. And so I feel like I'm a part of so many different Black cultures and communities, and I'm always bringing them in. Like, in many ways, I feel like I'm always talking about Maryland, and this is actually my first time talking about Mississippi with my grandma, and it feels like such a great opportunity.
I love that. I am a multi-generational Southerner. My family entered this country into the institution of slavery, then transitioned into sharecropping, then transitioned into farming, and then they became like educators and professionals, and that's how. And that's my relationship to Blackness. But I think the thing that I would say that I feel like is really specific to what I write is this sort of North Carolina boys are fun. I don't know if do y'all know what I'm talking about?
I do actually know what you're talking about.
There's a and I think I write that a lot in the men in my plays. Like they're funny, there's a gregariousness to like boys from, at least the ones that I know that I went to high school with. Like and then ultimately, like, you know, some of them went to college with, like, that I write into my plays, and the number of times people come up to me and go like, "Are you from North Carolina?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from North Carolina," because I think they can pick up on this like thing. It's like, you know, we're half hillbilly, half b-boy. It's like a weird mix, and I am that, and so I write it a lot in my play. Like Juicy is that, Larry is that, Tio is that. Those boys are like, men are different, but it's like the boyness that you live with for a long time until you get really old.
That's beautiful. You know, I was mostly raised very adjacent to whiteness and suburban life, you know, but like I'd go out into the world and it was like white world, and I'd go home, it was Nigeria, right? So, but always having an aware that I am Black, because I can't pass for anything other than like what, Jamaican. So so I was very much aware of my Blackness, but but growing up mostly in PWI institutions, and then moving to New York and really chasing down Blackness in a kind of way. And my first exposure to theater and to plays was Black American work, right? So like the first thing that I was exposed to was Joe Turner's Venus and Amir Baraka's The Slave. Those were the first plays that I was given or found. I actually can't remember now which one it was. And that sort of awakened a thing that I recognized but didn't recognize. And I feel like that's been a lot of my work. It's like, I know this is in me, but this was not raised in me. And what I've come to find is that, oh, it's actually all quite connected, right? Like, you know, to have people who are Black American recognize themselves in my work, because I'm like, I'm American, I was raised here, I don't speak my parents' language, and still to chase after their Africanness and to chase after Blackness. I'm kind of like, my work and myself, I'm kind of chasing it in a way, for better or worse, right? And so that's sort of how Blackness approaches itself in my work, is kind of to see the ways in which we're all connected from the diaspora, you know, and also the fact that like Nigerians are everywhere. So I've come across my first gen folk who are Nigerian Southerners, Nigerian Texas, which is basically Nigeria now, Houston, you know, 80,000, you know. So I also just kind of make work that also kind of, I feel like it's brought people to me, you know. It's like made first generation Nigerian girls find me and go, that's me. I read August Wilson, I loved August Wilson, but that wasn't quite me. I couldn't quite find myself in this beautiful work. And so for me, I've kind of written to be like, maybe you'll find yourself in this in a way that I didn't find myself, like spiritually find myself, but didn't necessarily dialectically or culturally find myself.
I'm enjoying you all talk about like just the breadth and depth of the Black experience, but of just in the ways in which you all work and the ways in which you bring so much of just who you are, who your lineage is to the work. I think one of the beautiful parts of, and I'm catching myself that's a word that I love. I'm in love with beauty, but one of the dynamic parts of the consortium is that we get to support that. I think the other side of that coin is that we can't love on everybody, right? You know, the funds only stretch but so much. The opportunities to develop and really invest in the work at the level in which we want to ultimately means that every playwright that we want to serve can't be served. But that doesn't mean that these writers aren't worthy of development. And we know for over the last 25 years, there are so many development dollars that are out there, meaning that Black playwrights are finding themselves getting their first plays or their second, third, fourth plays developed in other spaces. I want us just to take a big kind of like 30,000 foot view on the landscape of new play development and talk about the ways in which you all see it evolving, specifically for Black playwrights. And if you could wave, our magic wand, what would you want to see the industry change? How do you want to see the industry change to better serve Black writers?
Is it evolving?
It's not. I was like, is this my camera? I was like, it's dying. It is dying.
Development, especially. I'm like, where do people go?
Yeah.
a lot of the development places, you know, rest in peace, the Lark, rest in peace,
Rest in peace,
Harlem.
Sundance.
Right. You know, like these places were, some of them were springboards, some of them were pipelines, some of them were, you know, but a lot of these places where you could just go and just do a little reading, pay everybody's for lunch to it, just to hear the thing out loud, they're gone. Big institutions are sort of, and the thing that even just made me a writer was walking in, again, pulling up to something that I was invited to. You know, I live in New York. Space costs too much money just to like get a room, just to get an office somewhere to like sit and just read with your that stuff is like almost a thing of the past, because people can't even afford rent to even pull up and have a home salon. So like my wish or dream would be like, you know, money, honey. You know what I mean? Because that's, you know, the younger generation of writer, I really worry for what they're gonna do. It was hard, but it was not as hard when I came to New York 20 years ago, right? I could get a room for $600, get a survival job for whatever, and pay my rent. Now a room is $1,500. So, and I would also say, and I don't want to say lower your ambitions, but I want to say manage your ambitions, because there's also something about, like, if I lived in a Black area, I might have stayed. Like if I lived in a Houston or a place that, you know, if Philadelphia would have had me, I would have stayed. So I also go look at your home. If you have a home, you know, base where you're at that actually has a place, bother them. But also some of those institutions are obsessed with New York. So I don't know. I think my thing is like, everybody look at home. The theaters, you know, look at what you have locally. Look at the talent that you have locally, so everybody doesn't feel like they have to go to New York or LA. Decolonize yourself from New York. If I wasn't from Bucks County, I would. I'm already from a colonized place. But you know what I mean? So like, I just feel like, what happens if you actually love the home that you're from? And if you seek out the theater that you're from? And the same thing with those institutions. What happens if you actually love the people that are from your organization and seek the talent within that circle? Because they're all coming to New York to go ahead and get published or famous and then come back home. And that's always been backwards. And that hasn't gotten better post-pandemic either. That's
no, that's so true. I moved to New York because I was told by a writer in DC how hard it was for writers in DC to be produced by DC theaters. They were like, you have to go to New York or you have to go to London. And I was like, well, New York is closer, so I'm going to move to New York. Like, it was very much a means to an end. And as much as I don't regret my New York life, like you and Ngozi, I got very lucky. I found a $600 room. That's very rare. And was able to make it work. But it was truly like just being in lucky places. You know, I moved to Minneapolis in order to be developed at the Playwrights Center, and I've been here for 3 years now ever since. And I feel like there's a reason why people like a Harrison David Rivers stay, like, because like it's affordable. And I will say that the Twin Cities does try very hard to pour into the writers that are here, like or Jacoby Johnson, who's been doing really well. So I feel like in some ways, I think the Drinking Gourd is ahead of the game and leading the charge when it comes to evolution, right? Because again, like Playwright Center is kind of alone. It's kind of like an island in terms of development, and then like some new dramatists, you have to have a certain level of I would say like professional acumen already. Like most of the people I see in new dramatists are already like have been really established writers for a while. So but that's like only two places, like or like the place like, and I feel like Drinking Gourd, I would also say like Oni Theater does this. Like they're bringing the development in house, right? They're not leaving it out to like the Larks that don't exist anymore or the Sundances that don't exist anymore. They're like, okay, well, it's up to us to nurture our writers now. So I'm so grateful that the Drinking Gourd is doing that, because I do think that is the evolution. I do think it's the next wave.
Yeah, I agree. I love it so much that I'm like, now, anytime, last couple of commission conversations I've had, I've been like, we should find someone else to do this with so that this play has like another life after this production. And I think it's because I've been thinking like you all. The thing I want to add to this conversation about the state of new play development, when we lose all those places, we also kind of lose the expertise of the people who have been doing that kind of work for years. And let me tell you something. I love my people to death. But we're not always good at the new play development stuff, right? Sometimes we don't know how to talk to a playwright in language that is useful to their process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I go back to like, playwrights get to have a process that is personal and unique and artistic of their own before they have to like do it with other people. Mm-hmm. And the new play development process is the only place you get to do that with tools. Like any other time, you're doing it by yourself at home. But like a new play development process should be absolutely centered on the work of the playwright. And so like that's the thing that I'm afraid is going to be lost, because that stuff was done through apprenticeship, right? Mm-hmm. That stuff was done through people working at those institutions for years. Half of those people were teaching dramaturgs in academic programs. I'm just worried that we're going to stop knowing how to like talk about craft, which is still important, right? We still need to talk about how you make a play and talk about that before we talk about what an actor is going to do with it, which doesn't matter when it's on a page right now. Like that actually isn't the most important thing. So I'm worried we're going to lose that sort of like demographic of like dramaturgs and dramaturg directors to like doing other stuff, and they're going to have time to do this stuff
because we don't pay them enough.
And that too. That too.
Part.
We don't pay the dramaturgs enough. We're giving them like $10 for like a certain amount of hours, and then I'm like, what? This is a 3-hour play we're working on. How come this dramaturg has not been here during the rehearsal process?
Yeah, so because they're doing 3 or 4 at a time.
That's right, because they're not being paid enough. So the value system has gone down as who is valuable in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all about the product and then putting the play up, as opposed to the process of I want my production, I want that thing staged, but the process, there's a sort of like there's a dwindling down of the process.
Yes.
That I don't know what to do about.
That's a perfect way of saying it. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah, we got to support the dramaturgs, right? Because they are so important. Like Ngozi Anyanwu is a genius and deserves all the support, right? Also a playwright, but an incredible dramaturg as well. Same thing with a Phaedra Michelle Scott. Same thing with like a Gillian Walker. These amazing playwrights, dramaturgs, who I think are finding their own ways in the absence of like this institution. But like we can't forget the dramaturgy, like you said, James, as a craft, and them being a part of this as well.
Well, I just love the natural flow of this conversation, because you all are leading me right into the way in which we want to conclude this conversation as I'm here talking to the playwrights of the Drinking Gourd. I want to just kind of wrap this up by exalting our forefathers, or people who are, let's give them their flowers while they're still living. I want you all just to kind of just round robin, shout out those Black dramaturgs, director, new play champions, and mavens that have either supported your work or supported work that you believe in. Let's go ahead and just exalt their names into this space as we conclude our and wrap up our conversation here today. So I'll just go in. I just want to just put out into the space Mary McClinton and Faye Price. Just those two names from my time in Minneapolis. I have others, but I just want to start by offering Faye Price out there and Mary McClinton.
I'm going to say, if we're thinking about just dramaturgs, I'm going to say Martine Green Rogers. Has really had a huge impact. We love Martine. We stand Martine. And Phaedra Shatar Carpenter. And also, like, I feel like somebody once told me that playwrights rise in circles, and I'm like, it's true. I'm starting this career because of Candace Jones. I'm starting this career because of Nambi Kelly. I'm starting this career because of Lynn Nottage and Susan Laurie Parks and Marcus Gardley. Like, shout out to the teachers and the people, your peer group, taking you with them.
Very much Arminda Thomas. Timothy Douglas is the first Black director I had. In an all-white space, so just having that sort of person look over me I didn't know that that's a thing that I needed until I had it. So those two in particular, artists, and then Pierre Owoye, Timbo, Patricia McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Patricia. Mariah Gant, who is my dramaturg on this, but is an artistic director in Delaware in our own right, brilliant dramaturg and director and actor. My dear Sahin, who takes my name in every room that he goes in, so I definitely appreciate that. Malika Oyetaman directed my play White at Theater Horizon all those years ago and did such a fantastic job with that crazy play. The playwrights that I think about constantly, Adrian Kennedy, Pearl Clegg, y'all. I just think she's a dream. What a writer. Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, the people on this call. Yeah, Lynn Nottage, of course, and August. August is, I think I read Seven Guitars was the first play by a Black playwright I read in high school. And I did that scene with Floyd and Vera when he comes back with the guitar in my acting class in high school. And I was like, oh, this is really Black. This is for me. After reading Julius Caesar and everything else. So it was nice.
Shout out to Otis Cortez, Ramsey Zoe. Shout out to Lori Carlos. Who else is on my brain? Lori Richards. And I wouldn't be able to wrap up this call if I didn't give a shout out to the associate producer of the Drinking Gourd, the woman who keeps all of these plates spinning and moving, the one and only Kayla Parker. Shout out to you. You are a new play champion and maven, and you are helping bring this dream of an idea to life. So thank you to Kayla. Thank you to everybody who has participated on the administration side of the Drinking Gourd and on the creative side of the Drinking Gourd. And y'all, shout out to you three. Thank you all for spending some time chatting with little old me as we talk about what this beautiful thing is and what we want to do moving forward, y'all. Also, again, thank you to everyone who is dropped in and listening to our conversation, whether you only stuck around for the first 5 or the last 5. I hope that you are edified by this conversation.
Bars.
Well,
Come on.
I'm not a rapper, though. I'm not a rapper, though. Thank you all so very much on behalf of everybody in the Drinking Gourd Consortium. Thank you. Let's keep plays Black, and we'll be out.
Bless.
Thank you.